Good evening and welcome to Prime Edition. The UNEA 6 meeting is happening in Nairobi. Tomorrow, President William Ruto leads a very high, or rather a powerful delegation to the meeting tomorrow, of course, accompanied by the Prime Minister for Ethiopia, Ahmed Abiy, as well as the Somalia President, Sheikh Mohamud, of course, and among other people who are leading their respective countries' delegation to the meeting to build up on concessions in COP28, as well as the conference hosted in Kenya regarding climate change. We have details lined up for you. And of course, as Kenya laid the red carpet for Addis Ababa's Abiy Ahmed, who arrived in the country yesterday. Today was the formal reception at State House, Nairobi. We also have details for you. Here are tonight's highlights. Lenso Dingo is a sign language interpreter. My name is John Jacob Kioria. And just a reminder, tonight in our conversation, we'll be engaging the Principal Secretary in charge of Public Health and Professional Standards, Madam Mary Modhoni, who will be joining us on set. There's so much to discuss, particularly regards the reforms in the yet to be established, that is SHIF, that of course replaces NHIF, and we'll also have a conversation on some of the complaints being made by nurses about biasness in promotions. But welcome to Prime Edition. The coverage begins right now. Kenya and Ethiopia have signed nine bilateral agreements expected to boost the cordial relations between the two nations. Nairobi and Addis Ababa will cooperate in the fields of trade and investment, agriculture, fisheries, transport, ICT, tourism, health, culture and forestry, as well as play a leading role in the restoration of peace and stability in the Horn of Africa. The deals were signed during the official reception of Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed by President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi. With a history of diplomatic relations dating over 60 years, it was Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's first state visit to Kenya. Having arrived in Nairobi on Tuesday evening, President William Ruto organized a magnificent reception for the Ethiopian Prime Minister. A 19-gun salute and a military parade organized by the Kenya Air Force. The two leaders in their bilateral talks agreed to deepen relations in the fields of trade and investment, agriculture, fisheries, transport, ICT, tourism, health, culture and forestry. To build up on the existing people-to-people relations between the two nations, the leaders agreed to undertake measures for the enhancement of interaction, with Kenya affirming its decision a few weeks ago of exempting Ethiopian citizens from the electronic travel authorization.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have discussed extensively with my brother Prime Minister Abiy, and we are in sync on what we see as possibilities of the present and the immense opportunities for the future.
We're very happy to be here. We're enjoying all the moments since our arrival. Everyone is witnessing the friendship, the brotherly attitude towards Ethiopia from our brotherly country, Kenya, is a demonstration that these two countries doesn't have any baggage to strengthen our relationship, also to go forward in multifaceted and ambitious economic plan that both countries has. The relationship between the two countries will also be a role model for others to follow.
While emphasizing their commitment to the stability and peace of the Horn of Africa, President Ruto and Prime Minister Ahmed affirmed their commitment to recognize, respect and uphold the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states and to reject unconstitutional changes of government as well as interference in domestic political processes of African countries by external interests.
This is Alex, the secretary, a member of parliament.
The two leaders later visited the Suswa substation in Kajiado County that facilitates cross-border transfer of electricity between Kenya and Ethiopia.
Najua tunanunua stima kutoka Ethiopia.
Yes.
So amekuja kuona mahali hiyo stima inakuja. Na sasa anaenda kesho kule Tanzania kwa sababu pia anataka kuuza stima yao kwenda Tanzania na tutawasaidia kupitisha hapa.
And our section of health workers unions is accusing the Ministry of Health of discriminating other cadres in the appointment of managers at the ministry. Led by the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, the unions say that the positions should be left open to all and that some of the requirements have locked the members out.
It is this advertisement by the Public Service Commission for the position of Director General for Health, Deputy Director General and heads of division at the Ministry of Health that has angered health workers' unions.
Solidarity forever.
Some of the requirements listed are said to have locked out health workers in other cadres. Health workers' unions have termed the advert as discriminatory, saying lack of representation in top positions has led to discriminative policies.
Appointments that are reserving positions for one cadre, irrespective of the fact that there is a judgment that actually outlawed that and directed the ministry to ensure that they do not have discrimination in the manner in which they provide for requirements or appoint people into leadership positions.
Directorate position kuanzia kwa DG katika Ministry of Health should be open for competitive. It should not be designated. Isiweko kwa ajili ya mtu mmoja kwa sababu wote wana qualification.
We want to know for the record whether health sector belongs only to medical doctors. Our fate cannot be decided by only one cadre.
The unions have given the Public Service Commission 7 days to recall the advert. The unions have also decried the failure by the Ministry of Health to give over 8,000 universal health coverage staff a way forward on the absorption.
Miezi ile ambayo imebaki kisheria wanatakiwa kuwa wameelezwa kama wataendelea kufanya kazi ama watatolewa kazini. Ifikapo tarehe 4 kama hawatakuwa pia wamefanya uamuzi huo, basi watakuwa na kuja kudai haki yao. Haki yao katika Wizara ya Afya na pia wataenda katika Wizara ya Fedha na pia wataenda katika Council of Governors.
The contract of the UHC staff had been extended for 1 year and is set to lapse in May this year. They have also called for immediate posting of interns by the government to avoid a disruption of their school calendar.
And for those cadres who do internship, if you are delayed for 1 year, it means 1 year of your working life has been lost. You cannot get a job anywhere because you are not licensed. And we have really tried to talk to the ministry, but it's not bearing fruits. So we also want to give an ultimatum that if in the next 7 days they will not have posted the interns, we are also going to mobilize the interns so that they can come and camp there.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
And just a reminder that we have the Principal Secretary in charge of Public Health and Professional Standards in studio. She will be talking to us later, and I'm sure she will have a response somehow for that story. Now, the opposition leader, Raila Odinga, says his Ugandan meeting with President William Ruto and Yoweri Museveni was not planned. Speaking on the second day of the Homa Bay International Investment Forum, Raila says his meeting with President Ruto was coincidental, as he had gone to meet the Ugandan president to seek his support for his quest to be chairperson of the African Union Commission.
Great. Kenya's opposition chief Raila Odinga says his meeting with President William Ruto in Uganda was purely coincidental and not planned, as he had gone to seek the support of Yoweri Museveni for his African Union Commission chairmanship quest.
Been running around trying to get support for different heads of state. I was with some in Namibia just the other day, and I went to the president of Uganda after I talked to him to go and ask for his support. And then we met there with Mr. Ruto, who had also gone there, to talk about the issues they're having with oil, the G2G. He was his minister for energy. So after we talked about my candidature, they talked about the issue of oil among themselves. But I asked for their support, and both of them agreed that they would support me.
Raila says he was purely in Uganda as part of his campaign for the top position in the African Union Commission and nothing beyond that.
Somebody said he would be the one to propose me as the chair of African Union Commission. And I said, thank you very much. But I'm not going away. Addis Ababa, as Charity said, is only 2 hours away from Nairobi.
Nobody say he's a Kenya Kwanza candidate, because that is not true. And let nobody also say he's an Azimio candidate, because that is equally not true. Raila Odinga now rises above our partisan politics when it comes to negotiating and defending national interest.
The Uganda meeting playing it out as Raila graced the second day of the Homa Bay International Investment Conference.
We know photos these days speak. Have you ever seen speaking photographs? Simbarati saw one. I asked my brother, how many cows did Museveni give you? Those Ankole cattle. And he told me he promised 50. Next time I will accompany you.
Opposition politicians at the forum calling on Raila to give direction on the next course of action following his declaration that he will be seeking the Continental's body top position, with some urging caution on the alleged new alliance.
Baba, umepangaje? Umetupangiaje? Tupange vizuri. You know ulitupanga in 2002. You must panga us again so that we know how to take this country forward.
Kuna wakati inafika the eagle flies away and leaves the eaglets to practice on how to fly. Baba, go to AU as your eaglets, na mimi nikiwa mbele taonyeshana wengine vile tuna fly.
Some of us are still wondering, because we have been in that comfort zone. Whether we joke around or we do what, we know Baba is just around.
Absolutely no need for fear. And if you sometimes feel overcome and overwhelmed in whichever form, and you're missing Baba, you're missing Baba, my friend Paranya, there's Uncle Steve-O.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm around.
Raila, who played down local politics, instead called on the government to relinquish more infrastructural functions to county governments, as well as incorporate counties' tourism development strategies in the national policy.
Of eagles and eaglets. So we take a first breather on Prime Edition. Don't go too far. We're coming back with more news.
Haya, sisi ya kungoja kwenye star 570 hash kuna ploti na ni up to 1.1 million Kenyan shillings with a genuine title deed na inakungoja star 570 hash ukana shake.
Welcome to Sensei Institute. Mahali skills zangu ni pesa mkononi. At Sensei College, practical skills is the definition. Accredited by the government and founded on a Christian background, Sensei College offers all-rounded programs that are tailor-made to enhance your skills and give you the future you desire. We offer courses such as interior design, fashion and design, hairdressing and beauty, hospitality courses, trailer driving and defensive driving, building construction technology, CCTV, solar and electrical installation, photography and video production, electronic courses, vehicle electronics and mechanic courses, agricultural mechanics, ICT, and many more. To enroll in any of our campuses in Nairobi and Nakuru, all you need is your national ID card. Mapema ndo best. Take advantage of our monthly intake. Come to kusort na skills. Sensei College, my skills, my future.
The police are already here.
Yes. I'll just ask them to come back tomorrow.
Yes, because it's been a tough day for Nazario.
No, I'll talk to them now. No matter what day it is, nothing will change.
Well, you could say Lucia and I are dating now.
Oh, heaven answered my prayers, finally!
Then let me repeat what I said before. Face all the consequences. And don't ever tell me I didn't warn you.
It's been quite a while that your threats don't affect me anymore, Nora.
To me. Forget about Lucia.
Because if you keep on insisting, I'll make her forget you forever.
Stop fooling me. And how can you do that?
In the simplest way I know. I'm going to tell your Lucia that we met twice in a hotel.
Welcome back. You're watching the Prime Edition. Agriculture and Livestock Development Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi has directed the Agriculture Food Authority to investigate allegations of cane theft amid rising concern of a weighbridge fraud that has seen farmers in sugarcane growing areas lose millions of shillings to unscrupulous traders. Linturi, who appeared before the Senate plenary to answer to claims that a section of sugar millers have been using faulty weighing machines to defraud farmers, said his office is drafting regulations aimed at streamlining sugarcane weighbridges and protecting farmers from exploitation.
Theft of cane at weighbridges and the plans by the Cabinet Secretary to compensate sugarcane farmers and hold accountable the persons involved.
What progress has been made so far in securing and protecting farmers from these predatory cartels? Mr. Speaker, as I said, we are getting crops out of our farms now.
These taxes on transportation of sugarcane, taxes on fertilizer, taxes on harvesting, and then after that, when the sugar is sold, there is also VAT on it.
What are you doing as the CS Agriculture to make sure farmers are not exploited?
We understand the meaning of this industry to the economy of Kenya and the people of the western region where sugar is grown. And Mr. Speaker, you know, government has committed a lot of resources and continues to invest in this sector, and it is quite really painful because we've just concluded paying farmers around 1.3 billion shillings, and we have a debt and balance of around 400, so that we can be able to get back farmers to their farms and be able now to produce cane for crushing.
In the National Assembly, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Mashogu says investigations into recent deaths involving school-going children are underway, and those found culpable shall be brought to book. Mashogu was hard pressed by legislators Wednesday to indicate whether there were new measures the ministry had put in place to safeguard the lives of learners about the recent death, or rather who were involved, obviously after the recent death in Murang'a County. This comes as Gender Cabinet Secretary Aisha Juma noted that girls in public schools are set to receive free sanitary towels from the government beginning April.
The safety of learners, especially the young ones, took center stage at the National Assembly Wednesday when the Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Mashogu appeared before the House. Members cited the alleged drowning of a pupil at Visa Oshul Academy and 2 separate accidents from Goodrich International Schools and Maadili Junior School.
We had concluding investigations because I did send a group of officers, and once we establish culpability of the head teacher or any such individual at the overall supervisor of the school, of course the head teacher, for possible negligence, then we will be able to initiate disciplinary action.
I'd also want the Cabinet Secretary to state what policy is in place for use by schools when recruiting personnel that handle children in the schools. And these are personnel who include bus drivers, the coaches in the different disciplines of sport.
What is being done to ensure that cases like these of gross negligence do not happen in our public schools?
The CS indicating that quality assurance officers are enforcing the existing policies on school safety.
Ametusomea kanuni na sheria ambazo ameziweka. Je, anafanya bidii gani kuhakikisha anafuatilia kanuni hizi kama zinafuatwa ndani ya maskuli?
Actually, the major concern in the ministry, particularly when we have either any activity bringing schools together, even when school children are now moving out, we have insisted that the county director of education must be informed, and part of his responsibility is to ensure that particularly the vehicle they are traveling out with is compliant, is properly serviced.
Meanwhile, Gender and Culture Cabinet Secretary Aisha Juma says her ministry has already procured sanitary towels for girls in public schools, and distribution will begin in a month's time by county women representatives. Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
Let's quickly run to the corridors of justice. And Derek Kimathi Nyamo, the owner of Maxis Energy in Embakasi, Nairobi County, where a gas explosion killed more than 10 people and injured over 300 others early this month, has been released on a 2 million shillings bond. Senior Principal Magistrate Dolphina Alego declined the prosecution request to continue holding the suspect for 14 more days. A petition in the meantime has been filed at Milimani's High Court seeking compensation for hundreds of victims of a tragedy in Muradi area. Details in the Scales of Justice segment.
After being in custody for 21 days, Derek Kimathi, the owner of Maxis Energy Nairobi Limited, has been released by trial magistrate Dolphina Alego.
The suspect to deposit his passport in this court. 2. The remaining investigations to continue when the respondent will deposit a cash bail of $500,000 with 3 contact persons or a bond of $2 million with 2 sureties of similar amount.
The prosecution had requested an extension of time to complete its investigations into the matter, but the court declined.
Enormous nature of the crimes in itself and the various levels and subsets that investigators require to pour in as they pursue the several other scenes other than the crime scene.
The court was informed that the investigating team had recorded statements from 363 witnesses, the majority of whom were victims. 265 completed P3 forms have been received, while 30 victims are yet to record their statements.
Those neighbors of the incidents, they are now coming out to speak, so we had to record their statement. But we feel if a suspect is released, he may interfere with the neighbors.
At the same time, a petition has been logged at the Milimani High Court by a petitioner Francis Muraidhi, who seeks to have Nairobi City County, EPRA and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum compelled to provide the affected residents with alternative land, shelter or accommodation for reasonable standards until they are able to get back on their feet. Elsewhere, a petition has been filed against the decision by Kenya Bureau of Standards to suspend 3 alcohol brands from Patiala Distillers Limited.
Article 47 of the Constitution on Fair Administrative Action, as well as the Fair Administrative Actions Act, which guide or which gives guidelines on how administrative bodies are to conduct themselves.
We are seeking for orders to suspend or revoke those draconian orders that have come from KEBS.
Ruth Homboy for Prime Edition.
We change gears a bit now to look at the day's business news. My name is Wairi Mujenga. Now, coffee trading volumes and prices at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange increased, supported by reforms being implemented, such as the clearing and settlement of through the direct settlement system. Now, the volume of coffee traded at the auction this week increased 35% to 30,272 bags, valued at $9 million.
Data shows that the weekly coffee volumes at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange increased by more than a third. In addition, the top-grade coffee attracted the highest price of $499 per 50 kg bag. The top-grade coffee was from Ndaroine Coffee Society in Nyeri. The high price is equivalent to 224 shillings per kilo of sherry at factory gate. Data from the Nairobi Coffee Exchange shows that the average price also increased by 19% to $290 from $244 per 50 kg bag recorded last week. The average price is equivalent to 130 shillings per kilo of cherry, 20,716 bags, which represents 68% of the total volumes traded, were premium grades AA and AB. Players in the sector attribute the rise in trading volumes to government reforms, including the direct settlement system that has enhanced transparency in coffee trading. This is believed to have rebuilt the trust that farmers have in the coffee auction and the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. Frederick Moki for Prime Edition.
The maturing carbon industry is presenting numerous business opportunities for Kenyan businesses. Nairobi International Financial Authority Acting CEO Oscar Njuguna says local businesses will, however, need to navigate the knowledge challenge and gaps in the global carbon trading value chain if they are to benefit fully in the carbon trading revolution.
In January this year, the government published draft carbon market regulations inviting members of the public to submit views. Most Kenyans are yet to understand how to reap from the carbon market.
This is a new area, not just for Kenya, but for the rest of the world as well. So it's not the first. It's not the first time it's coming to Kenya, and then everywhere else has been there for sort of 10, 20 years. So we have an opportunity to actually not only look at it, adapt it, but to innovate and say how can we adapt it to suit Kenya's needs.
Plans to set up ground rules for the carbon market are happening at a time when the Capital Markets Authority is also toying with the idea of a detailed assessment of Kenya's carbon market, its ecosystem, do a stakeholder mapping, and determine the demand and supply conditions as well as its growth trajectory.
The way we're looking at the carbon trading framework is about saying, okay, this is a great potential revenue stream for businesses, for people, for families, for the government as well in terms of tax. So how can we harness this and make sure that there is equity in the way the profits and the revenues are generated?
But disparities in the global carbon credit market may be denying Kenya the quality compensation that may be used for climate resilience projects.
So there's no universally agreed minimum carbon price. And I think that's one of the gaps that exists in the ecosystem. I think that's something that is desperately needed globally for the policymakers to say, okay, we need to have a minimum price for carbon.
He was speaking at the 11th edition of the two-day Sankalp Africa Summit being held in Nairobi. Alanoko, Prime Edition.
Now we take you to Abu Dhabi, where developing countries are calling for implementation of stricter regulations to reduce incidences of commodity price fixing. Some of the World Trade Organization member states say stock hoarding has seen rich countries dictate the pricing of agricultural products, which is affecting earnings by farmers in developing countries.
Developing nations want WTO to set up a trade dispute mechanism to arbitrate on key trade issues to protect farmers and producers from developing nations from price fixing. They say there is need for a permanent solution for public stock holding by rich nations.
What we have found over the years is that whatever mechanisms we come up with, whatever ideas, the first reaction of the North is very often to look after their interests.
Public stock holding for agriculture has been one of the most important discussions, and it has been on the table for many years, over 10 years.
WTO member states say some rich countries have been purchasing most of their farmers' produce and later on releasing the commodities at a higher price, effectively increasing commodity prices and dictating commodity prices at the international markets.
Only do they do that, but they also do not want us to set what we call public stock holding levels for the commodities that we produce in good quantities, which then allows them to take them at very lucrative prices for our farmers and our investors in developing countries, to such an extent that we end up not having enough to feed ourselves.
Countries that are net food importers, we want policies that will not be necessarily oppressive to them.
WTO is calling for fair trade to ensure openness in global trading.
The best way of us being able to emphasize the challenges that we are facing and to build a coalition among ourselves so that we are able to better represent our interests and overcome some of the obstacles.
Developing countries say they want a better pricing mechanism for them to adequately participate in the global trade. Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Benson Rioba.
Now we head straight to Mombasa County, where there are more than 8,000 cases related to land and construction pending in various courts in Kenya. This is hindering the implementation of various laws and policies in the construction industry. The State Department of Public Works now wants the judiciary to establish a special construction division court to help expedite the numerous legal disputes pending in court. The department has also agreed to work with the county government of Mombasa to help jumpstart all stalled projects in the devolved units.
To emphasize the whole of government approach. Of course, the Constitution emphasizes that the two levels of government work together through the spirit of cooperation, mutual respect, and consultation. And we want to encourage this. And additionally, His Excellency the Governor made a visit to my office, and we are working together on the issue of the stadium. I'll be sending a technical team for the financial appraisal so that a report is that can come out so that we can be able to have a solution.
The only thing that we now need to be able to do is just make sure that everything is complied with. These are issues that have been re-emphasized by the Office of the Attorney General, the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Council of Governors, and other as well, including Ministry officials, and what we are simply asking is for the same to be re-emphasized.
We are engaging to Harvard to accede to the Washington Accord. That means as an engineer you're able to practice elsewhere, you can practice in other countries. So that means we'll be able to not only excel regionally but also globally. So we look forward to continued partnership and dealing with the policy framework so that an engineer here is able to practice globally and able to contribute to the social economic development of our country. And through engineering, we're able to lift our country out of poverty to make a country that will be able to thrive and become even a first world country, considering we have emerging technology like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, that we can leverage to make our country become debt-free.
Well, that Max said today is a business news, but do not go anywhere. On the other end of the studio, we have Bernard Okumu with the day's sports. Good evening, Bernard.
Thank you so much, Nimo, and thank you so much for joining us on Channel 1 Sports this lovely evening. I'm Bernard Okumu, and let's begin with athletics, where the government is committed to changing the fortunes of active and retired athletes as part of its quest to improve the welfare of athletes. Speaking at the burial ceremony of the late legendary athlete Henry Rono, the CS reiterated the government's plan to establish universal health coverage for retired athletes that will ensure they enjoy affordable health care upon retirement. Ababu said that the government, through his ministry, had created an endowment fund for athletes, injecting 20 million shillings as the seed fund to cater for the athletes' welfare.
Mpango wa kwanza tulizindua mwaka uliopita na Athletics Kenya ni mpango wa endowment fund. Ni wakfu maalum wa kusaidia wanariadha wetu wanapostaafu. Hii endowment fund serikali ilianzisha na shilingi milioni 20. Na tunawasiliana na wawekezaji wengine, the corporates. Tunataka kukuza hii endowment fund, na Rais Mheshimiwa William Ruto ameniahidi ya kwamba tutaongeza mchango wa serikali katika hiyo endowment fund ili uwe ni wakfu wa kusaidia nyinyi mkiwa in retirement. That endowment fund is actually for you, athletes in retirement.
And Henry Rono was a great athlete of the years of yore who did break 4 world records in 81 days. Moving on, last year's WRC Safari Rally Kenya winner Sebastian Ogier will not be returning to defend his title. The 8-time WRC World Rally champion faces part-time for Toyota and beat Kairo Vampera in a close battle for the win last year. Now the Finn will now seek to reclaim his 2022 Rally Kenya title alongside his Toyota teammates Elfin Evans and Takamoto Kasuta. Ogier currently sits in 4th in the championship behind Belgium's Thierry Neuville, Britain's Elfin Evans and fellow countryman Adrian Fouma. This year's WRC Safari Rally Kenya is scheduled to be held on the 28th to 31st of March.
Limping along with only front-wheel drive after damaging a third prop shaft of the week. Danny Sordo was hanging on to 5th place, but battling.
Elsewhere, the national table tennis team has stepped up their training ahead of the 13th edition of the All Africa Games set to be held in Accra, Ghana between 8th to 23rd of March. Now the team leaves the country for Accra this Friday.
The table tennis will be the first batch of the team to depart for the Africa Games this Friday. The team, which consists of 10 players, has been training at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, ready for the event set to begin in Accra on the 8th of next month.
We've been here since Monday, but prior to that, we've been also training because we had trials like 2 weeks ago. And we also had one of our players away in Denmark for like 3 months since late last year. So we've been practicing for quite some time.
They will be followed by the cycling and swimming teams that will depart for Accra on the 4th of next month. Other teams that will be representing Kenya in the continental event include beach volleyball, wrestling, weightlifting, judo, volleyball, handball, chess and boxing. The Africa Games will be a platform for Kenyan athletes to showcase their skills and compete against the best in Africa. Faith Akinye for Prime Edition.
ni mbili. Yako ni gani? Kwenye star 570 hash. Every 100 shillings unayotumia kwa Lucky Game inakupa 1 entry point ya kuingia kwenye drum ya draw ambayo inakupa fursa ya kujishindia moja kati ya shamba hizi mbili. Mwisho wa April namtangaza mshindi wa shamba hili la 1.1 million Kenyan shillings na unapata title deed yako safi. Na mwisho wa Mei namtangaza mshindi wa shamba hili la 1.1 million Kenyan shillings, lori za mawe na mchanga. Ploti ndizo hizi. Dial star 570 hash. Title deed ndio hii. Vuka na shake.
签了以后啊，就可以证明你的态度和立场。来，快签吧。你只是作为一个重要的附加证人在这签字就可以了。但是你要明白一点，并不是非你不可，这是组织上对你的优待。
我父亲已经去世了。
老张，赶紧想辙，把档案调出来，时间紧迫啊！
Yes, I am getting you loud and clear.
You will not believe your eyes when you see her. She is very masubu.
The only time that I cry and fight my tears is when I peel an onion.
When you want my heart to jump out of my chest.
Don't worry, Kamene. I can always hold your heart whenever it decides to jump out of your chest.
Uyane, kwani wana moyo kwa mkono yako is?
Yay! Shots fired!
My favorite faces. How are you all today?
Classmates.
Welcome back, and moving on to GSU, where GSU headquarters men's volleyball team advanced to the quarterfinals of the ongoing GSU Inter-Companies Volleyball Championships after defeating Whiskey by 3 straight sets in their last Pool C match. The quarterfinal matches will be played tomorrow at Embakasi B GSU Training Campus.
Quarters Company defeated Bravo by 3-0 before beating Whiskey with the same scoreline to advance to the quarterfinals of the championship. Headquarters, who now tops Pool C, enjoys unbeaten run in the championship. Host Embakasi B are also in the quarters after finishing second in the same pool.
Imetusaidia sana kimwili, tena imetusaidia watu wengi, kama kuna mtu akona issue kama stress nini, imetusaidia kwa mazoezi, tunakutana kila siku, kutoka kasho tunacheza mazoezi,
kuexpose, kupata ile exposure askari ili asiweze kufikiria kwamba mahali hapo kazi huko kwa mpaka huko mbali, asifikirie ni yeye peke yake. Tuko wengi, tunapatana, tunajaribu kushare ile challenges tunapitia huko, na hiyo inatupea motivation.
In other matches, Golf Company dubbed November Company by 3 straight sets to qualify for the quarters in Pool A. Dali thrashed Echo 3-0 to advance to the quarters, while Romeo saw off Quebec to sail into the quarterfinals.
Hizi games tournament hii kama tunashukuru sana kwa sababu imetusaidia, tumejoin up na wale wenye kutoka various areas na tuna capture out the balance ya players. Aso sana niko na players wenye najua kwamba in the next few weeks watajoin the unity the headquarters pale ya commander.
The ladies' competition enters the semi-final stage tomorrow. Embakasi B campus will face headquarters while Golf battle it out against Romeo. The 4 days event has attracted over 20 GSU companies from different parts of the country, with the final slotted for Friday at the GSU headquarters in Ruaraka. The main aim of the championship is to unite the servicemen and to promote healthy living. For Prime Edition, I'm Sela Onyango.
Thank you so much, Sela Onyango, for that report. And to rugby, where Patrick Odongo is the notable absentee in the national sevens team to the second round of the Challenger Series in Montevideo, Uruguay. The men's team, Shujaa, has made 5 changes to the side that won the Cup final at January's opening round in Dubai. Now, Japan-based Janet Okello returns for the women's team, the Lionesses, after missing out on the opening leg in Dubai. Both teams depart for Uruguay this Sunday.
Kodongo, who topped squad in Dubai with 11 tries, is recovering from an injury sustained during Daystar Falcon KRU Championship 39-12 victory against Kabarak University 3 weeks ago, while Brian Tanga will also miss out due to an illness. Festus Siashi, William Mwanji and Brian Mutugi will not be traveling with the team either. Dennis Abukuse and Ben Salem return to the side, while Lamek Ambetsa, Crescent Ojuang and Elvis Olukusi will be making their debut in South America.
And this is going to be the challenge for them now. Huge hits coming in.
On the women's side, Janet Okello replaces Diana Kemunto as the Lionesses look forward to improve on their second finish this time round. Shujaa will take on the 2023 Challenger champions Tonga, Georgia and Portugal in Pool A. The Lionesses, on the other hand, are drawn together with Belgium, Papua New Guinea and Hong Kong, China in Pool B. Join Abwile for Prime Edition.
Further afield, where record-breaking Formula One season gets underway in Bahrain this weekend with 24 races scheduled between 2nd of next month and 18th of December. Dutchman Max Verstappen looks to claim a 4th consecutive driver's title in a similar fashion to his 2023 campaign, where he won 19 of the 22 races and was hardly challenged all season.
Season beginning in Bahrain on Thursday. However, teams are pessimistic about their chances to overthrow last year's champions due to the pure domination by Max Verstappen and his Red Bull team last season.
The soft tyre works. That's an ambitious move to the inside.
Red Bull was the last of the 10 teams to reveal their 2024 car, with some surprisingly radical changes that seem to mimic some of Mercedes' ideas from last year that the team has since scrapped. The performance shown at the pre-season test last week seems to replicate the significant pace advantage they had over the competition in 2023. Positive murmurs have been coming out of Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston Martin and McLaren about the performance of their cars, but McLaren's team boss Andrea Stella said there's one team that's made an even bigger step, and that's the same team that dominated proceedings last year.
He's in half better traction, millimetres between the pair of them as they go side by side. He's not going to try around the outside, but he is going to try the inside of turn 10. What a superb move!
The traditional weekend format has been shifted back one day to accommodate for Ramadan after next weekend's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So free practice 1 and 2 will be on Thursday, practice 3 and qualifying on Friday, and the main Grand Prix on Saturday instead of Sunday. For Prime Edition, I'm Emmanuel
Down the
Ndong.
hill, and Alonso had such better traction that he nearly...
Well, and that's it from the sports desk this hour. Thank you so much for watching, but stand by for that particular interview. John Jacob Kioria is in discussion with the Principal Secretary Public Health, Mary Mudhoni. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Bernardo Kumu.
Jinsi ya kungoja kwenye star 570 hash kuna ploti na ni up to 1.1 million Kenyan shillings with a genuine title deed na inakungoja. Star 570 hash, buka na shake.
Our conversation tonight focuses on matters health. Mary Mudhoni is the Principal Secretary, Public Health and Professional Standards, and she joins us in studio tonight. Karibu sana PS, how are you doing?
Thank you.
How's the
Thank you
ministry?
so much. The ministry is okay. We are charged.
Yeah.
We are good to go on the reforms, the many reforms that we have introduced. And we are ready to offer Kenyans an available, acceptable, accessible and affordable quality healthcare.
Fantastic. We'll talk about accessible and affordable healthcare in a bit. But just as you were making your way to studio, I think you saw the complaints there by clinical officers as well as, I don't know, nurses about promotions, and they were complaining about some cadres being left out. I don't know, what is your response to them?
I saw that, but really, even if you look at the advert, I don't think it locks anybody out. As long as you have the qualifications, if you're a clinical officer or any other cadre, and you have a degree, you have a master's, you're free to apply. But I hear them, and these are my good friends, and I would want to invite them, even if it's tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. in my office, so that we are able to listen to each other. The government has a listening ear, and they know that when I sit in my office, I offer them an ear. I would want we meet tomorrow and we hear what are the complaints. There could be a little more, which I do not know. And because I've just seen it, I welcome them so that we can clear up the air.
It's an open invitation to the gentlemen that were there to see the PS tomorrow at 7 a.m. Probably you'll get your issues resolved in that meeting. When you talk about universal and affordable healthcare, let's talk about the components of what makes healthcare affordable and accessible, so that we move now to the reforms that your ministry is instituting.
Now, the implementation of universal healthcare is one that is anchored in the bottom-up transformation agenda. And when you talk about universal healthcare, it is healthcare that is affordable for all, equal to all, equitable to all. Therefore, the Social Health Authority is the primary vehicle. And remember, in December, we have the 4 acts that were, the 4 bills that were signed into law. And Social Health Authority is just one of them. Again, Kenya is working on strengthening the primary health care, which we also have the Primary Health Care Act of 2023. And then again, the flagging of over 100,000 community health promoters. In fact, after the summit that usually happened between the national government and the county government, we got an approval to add another 7,800 community health promoters that are going to be the anchor in the primary health care at the bottom of the pyramid. Again, the government has provided about 110 smartphones to the community health promoters. That will help in terms of registration on the ground and to get issues. And this is connected up to, digitally connected to the national level. And we are able to see from a dashboard how many people have been seen in a certain period of time by the CHPs and what are the issues. Then again, the investment in public health facilities, the infrastructure, the establishment of the 315 primary care networks, it forms the bottom and the base of universal health coverage. Then again, when we talk about the PCNs, we are in continuation of establishing the same. We already have about 105 primary care networks that have already been established on the ground, and another 50 that are already continuing, and we hope within no time we will establish more than 315, exactly 315 primary care networks. And these networks forms the base of also our referrals, because the referral system starts from the household level with the community health promoters, the 107,000 community health promoters. If a community health promoter comes to your household and finds that there are issues that are beyond what they are able to really cater for, because their work is really very basic, checking on your blood pressure, the blood sugar, reminding the mothers and caretakers on taking their children for immunization, reminding them on public health activities around their household, even basic things like sweeping, personal hygiene issues. Your children going to school, do they have handkerchiefs? Are they cutting their nails to their size? Environmental issues, planting of trees, and especially the support of the 15 billion trees. His Excellency, the President, has been advocating for other environmental issues like clearing of the bushes to ensure there are no mosquitoes around your household. Vector-borne diseases may not get us, you know, and waterborne diseases like cholera, you know, issues of water, clean and safe water. So what the community health promoter may not be able to treat, like injecting people on issues to do with maybe tetanus, then they are referred to probably a community health nurse or to the nearest health facility. Again, at the ministry, we have already done an assessment of all the levels of health facilities in the country. There are more than 14,000. And that includes the public health facilities, the private health facilities, and the faith-based health facilities. Because the primary care networks will revolve that. Nobody at any one time will go to a health facility and you're returned because you don't conform to a religion or maybe you cannot afford. The Social Health Insurance Act, again, as I am going to discuss in a few minutes, is gonna take care of all that. Therefore, when I started, I talked about available, accessible, and affordable quality health care. And that is what the Ministry of Health is standing in for.
Let's talk about SHI, PS, because much of what we've seen in the news really is about who is being taxed what, at what point, and what is happening. But I wanted to take us through the good news of the Social Health Insurance Fund, because much of what the public has been treated to is the other side of SHIF.
Thank you very much. I think there is no better time to live in this country than now. And one of the newest things that has been introduced in the Social Health Insurance Act is the 3 funds that are going to take care of everybody. And one of the funds is the Primary Care Fund, which is going to take care of the lowest level of the health facilities. And this will ensure that when you go to any health facility at the level of level 2, level 3, you don't pay a thing. You will not pay those 20 bob that you used to pay. Or when you go to these health facilities, you're told go back because you do not have money. Nobody will ever be returned home because they do not have money. And this money that we will be able to plow back to these health facilities. It's part of the 2.75 that me, as a PS, can be deducted to also build into the building, I mean the infrastructure of the health care. Then the second fund is the Social Health Insurance Fund. And this is what you normally used to call the NHIF. First and foremost, instead of paying the 500, then you will be paying 300 shillings. That's a shift from a higher mark to a lower mark. And anybody else who has a higher salary, then you will pay your 2.75 of your earnings. Therefore, that means even in my household, those who are not able to pay 300 shillings, I can be able to cover them within my range. The other thing about the social health insurance, there are those people who are not going to be able to pay, the indigents in our society. Then the government chips in. And we have a means assessment to get to know who is a real poor person, as you may put, and who is able to cover themselves. Because there are those who, even if you give them 50 bob, they will not pay. And they'll not be able to pay. So the government is going to pay for this. The other fund that we have is the Chronic Illness Fund. And the Chronic Illness Fund comes in multiples. Remember, each one of us here is either affected directly or indirectly by somebody who has a long-term disease, maybe cancer, those people who need dialysis. And most of the time is when you go with your NHIF card, you're told your card is depleted or you don't have enough funds. By the time you finish your registration, you can't even go for even a single test. Now, that is going to be a story of the past, because if your card has gotten depleted of the funds that are there through the social health insurance, then we will plow into the Chronic Illness Fund. Therefore, we will not have people going out there to fundraise, you know, the WhatsApp groups that we have, so many of them, so that you're able to be treated. Again, if you look at issues of screening, many people do not go out to get screened, maybe on cervical cancer issues, breast cancer issues, even for the men, you know, probably because of they do not know, or general ignorance, and secondly, they may not afford to get screened. So all these benefits come with the Social Health Insurance Act that will cover each and every one of us at every given time in our household. And this again is interconnected with the many other acts, the other 3 acts that we also have. If you look at the Digital Health Act, it's interrelatability of data. When we were growing up, each one of us used to have a quota exercise book in our home, which my mother could not lose, because you had to produce it to the doctor or whichever health, human resources health, when you go to any health facility. And that slated all your stories about where you're sick, what type of medicine you are given, maybe the doctor who saw you or whoever who saw you, and what action plan should be taken next. Therefore, the Digital Health Act provides for information between one health facility to another health facility. If you have been referred from maybe the village, from a level 5 hospital to level 6, then by the time you get to Kenyatta or KUTTRH, then the health, the staff who is waiting for you, or the doctor, already knows what type of disease you've been suffering from, or what medicine you've been taking, and they are able to now interconnect into what needs to be done next. Then we equally have the Facility Improvement Fund. We are going to a point whereby funds that are allocated for health the fund is ring-fenced, and no reallocation for other functions. So we will not have funds that are ring-fenced for health being reallocated to another function like roads, construction of roads, and many other subjects that are at the county level or even at the national government. So it would be important that whatever funds that are gotten meant for health care is really utilized for that, either for infrastructure development, for human resources employment, or even buying of equipment. Remember, when we talk about primary care, we want to get to a level whereby our surveillance is really high and sophisticated, in the sense that we are able to detect these ailments at a very early stage. Therefore, the right equipment is required at the right level of hospitals.
Let me ask very quickly, PS, as we near winding up, on the issue of this facility improvement, because we have had quite a problem of Kenyans really who are going to India or other places to seek treatment. Let's say, for example, for a chronic disease like cancer. Is this the silver bullet that this facility will go towards the improvement or eventual construction of, facilities that can help deal with cancer?
Everything, when it is anchored into a structured format, it works. And we always say, where there's no plan, where there's no structure, you're bound to fail. And that is why the first thing we did at the Ministry of Health is to structure by coming up with the laws that are going to guide us into what is supposed to be done. Therefore, the Facility Improvement Fund is meant to be plowed back to improve on the facilities. Sometimes, if you look at mothers, you'll find that they are overexposed, maybe the lactating mothers. Or even you'll go to some health facilities and they do not even have partition when a mother is giving birth, which is very demeaning. So improving such kind of infrastructure is very, very critical. And if you look at even the governance structure on in some of the health facilities that has already been laid down, is very critical, because the chairman will come from the community, the secretary, the composition is all inclusive, including the private, faith-based, and even the public hospitals. So as the community, we will decide what we will do with the funds that are in our health, collected for our health facility or allocated to our health facility. Remember again, we also need to utilize the issue of human resources for health, improvement into do we have enough dietitians in a certain facility, depending on the levels. At the lowest level, you may not need complex professionalism like neurosurgeons and all that. But as we go higher into the levels of health facilities, level 4, 5, 6, we may need maybe somebody to operate your knee. You may need somebody to operate your head, somebody to operate your heart. So at the end of the day, we will need to improve these health facilities depending on their levels in terms of equipment, infrastructure, and human resources. And I told you that we have already done an assessment of all the levels of the hospitals in this country. We know the gaps. We know where the challenges are. That is why even our engagement with the county governments, remember, health is devolved. And our role as a national government is creation of policy and training. And the rest of the demands, I think you would want to hear this.
Very quickly.
The rest of the issues, implementation of the same is the role of the county government. But I'm happy we are working really quite well. And even in some of the programs like the community health promoters, which we have, we are working in collaboration. We have already started paying their stipend, because the agreement with the intergovernmental agreement was we pay half and they pay half. 2,500 coming from the national government, 2,500 coming from the county government. And we are already fulfilling that bit. From last week, Friday, we have been paying December and January arrears for the national government, just to ensure that these people are motivated and they are able to advocate and really promote health, public health activities at the bottom of the pyramid and in our households.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, PS. Of course, we hope we can have you again. These are engagements we need to keep having, particularly between us and your ministry, for people to understand really the kind of reforms that your ministry is implementing, particularly on NSHIF, but you've done a good job really in explaining what it means for Kenyans.
I'm not sure if we are done.
Yes, we are done.
I would have wished to kindly request all the nurses who are unemployed that the government is very keen on labor migration, and it would be important to keep checking on what is happening. Right now, we are advocating for nurses who would want to go to Saudi Arabia, 2,500 spaces that are there, and they can apply through National Employment Authority. We also have upcoming for the UK and the US. And of course, locally, you have seen we have advertised positions through PSC, which are up for grabs. And every year, I want to assure Kenyans that our KMTC produces more than 20,000 professionals every other year. Graduates are more than 20,000. Therefore, we will continue producing quality for the care of to care for Kenyans.
Quality to care for Kenyans.
Yes.
And we wish you the very best, Madam.
Thank you.
Mary Muthoni, of course, as you continue to dispense with your mandate. Of course, probably in the later interview, we'll talk about some of the other things that you're doing in your ministry. But that is Mary Muthoni, the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Public Health and Professional Standards, and really breaking it down for us, particularly on the reforms the government has sought. The deductions begin in July, it was important that you understand what it means for you and your relatives. Thank you very much, PS, and thank you. Have yourself a good night. This is where we put a cap on Prime Edition. God bless you. Good night.
Shamba ni mbili, yako ni gani? Kwenye star 570 hash, every 100 shillings unayotumia kwa Lucky Game inakupa 1 entry point ya kuingia kwenye drum ya draw ambayo inakupa fursa ya kujishindia moja kati ya shamba hizi mbili. Mwisho wa April namtangaza mshindi wa shamba hili la 1.1 million Kenyan shillings na unapata title deed yako safi. Na mwisho wa Mei namtangaza mshindi wa shamba hili la 1.1 million Kenyan shillings, lori za mawe na mchanga. Ploti ndizo hizi, dial star 570 hash, title deed ndio hii. Vuka na shake.
Ili kupata mtoa baraka kama sikiza tune yako, bonyeza star 812 star 503 hash.
Wewe, ni kwa nini unafurahia vipaji ili asiye anayetoa? Kwa nini unapenda baraka, humpendi mtoa baraka? Nauliza, ni kwa nini unapenda mchuzi wa papa ila papa mwenyewe humtaki? Ni busara kutambua kuwa ukimpata mtoa baraka.
Kupata mtoa baraka kama sikiza tune, bonyeza star 812 star 503 hash. Star 812 star 503 hash.
Baby, when we first met, I never felt something so strong. You were like my lover and my best friend. The sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Whoa.
The woman of my dream, my queen.
Maisha mazuri ya? Maisha mazuri ya?
Get loose, get jiggy with it. Nimekuja kuwa show vile tutafanya.
Heko na watoleni wote mliwarembo, ninawapa namba 1, siwasemi kwa mafumbo.
Bako nalokunuza siende ukainuza, raha za dunia mwana ni karaha na kuambia.
Wenzangu wanieleza, akili zinapanuza, mabuku nikicharaza, nitakuwa na umoza.
Ni kwamba ni kweli wazazi hawajawapa watoto wao uhuru na nafasi ya kujieleza.
Mzazi anampa mtoto wake nafasi ya kujielezea, ndipo amsaidie katika changamoto zake.
Watoto hao wanapotoka kimaadili kwa sababu wazazi wao hawawapi wakati wa kutangamana nao ili watoto wao wawaelezee mambo yanayowasumbua.
Hii ni Sanaa ya Kiswahili katika KBC Channel 1.
Cheza loto, shinda pesa moto.
Awamu ndio hii, karibu kwenye show yako ya kipekee ambayo inakupatia fursa ya kujishindia up to 2 million Kenyan shillings kwa namna rahisi. Na pia kwenye star 570 hash uko na shake mbili, lori za mawe na mchanga zinakungoja. Na pia officially kwenye Lucky Game pia kuna matatu ikiwa ni Toyota Hiace.